Hey, what's up, everyone? Thanks for dropping into another episode on the Path to Freedom podcast. Today, I'm joined by a good friend of mine, Ron Holt. Ron is a repeat guest on the podcast, one of only a handful of people making their second appearance. So Ron, the first time he was a guest was the founder and CEO of Two Maids and a Mop franchise. But he's got some other things going on now. I'm going to let him kind of reintroduce himself and tell us a little bit about what he's up to now. But Ron, always good to see you, man. Love having a chance to catch up with you and appreciate you making time to come on the show.
Yeah, man, Wes, I'm glad to be here. Honored to be here and share my story with you again and talk a little bit about cleaning, but a whole lot more about moving. Would not want to be anywhere else. You're one of the best guys in the industry. So glad to be here.
Well, we always have fun. We just realized that we'd been chatting for like half an hour before we started recording and looked at the time and we're like, we should probably record this podcast at some point. So love catching up with you, learn stuff every time I have a chance to speak with you. For those watching, you can probably see the sign behind Ron, but for those just listening, Ron, what are you doing now? And what got you to the point where you have a new business that you're focused on and no longer focused on Two Maids and a Mop?
Yeah. So, well, for 20 years, that's all I knew was house cleaning. I
Yeah.
thankfully didn't have to clean dirty toilets and all that good stuff, but I didn't know a whole lot about house cleaning. And I thought that was going to be my legacy. That was going to be who I was going to be forever. That's almost sort of my identification, was that particular brand in business.
Yeah.
Lots of things happened along the way, all good things for the most part. Like, I feel like I lived already the American dream, build a business from the ground up with one location. You can remember the first day you opened those doors. You can remember the first people you hired. And then, it takes on a whole nother realm as you grow it. And for 2 decades, that's what I did. Just built that one store location into eventually almost 100 locations before selling it. Along the way, so many sort of things happened to me, just personally, even beyond just professionally. One, I had built this huge brand. We had thousands of employees across the network, across the country. A lot of people inside our corporate office in Birmingham, Alabama. And, I was working inside this big, huge office that was larger than my apartment, right out of college. And so everything was supposed to be good. But I found myself, as a CEO in lots of meetings, a lot of bureaucratic type decisions were being made, a lot of hand holding when it came to people. And I noticed people even around me were sort of jockeying for their position, in this corporate environment that I had created. And so that wasn't the most fulfilling life experience for me. And so I was sort of toying with the idea, what do I do about it? I left corporate America because I didn't like it. And here I've built it, and so what do I do about it? So I didn't really know a ton of answers at the time. But
you can't really shrink, it's not like you can shrink and go backwards from that. You got all these franchisees, all these employees, like so many people that, their livelihood is now dependent on this organization that you've built. So it's not like you can, start scaling that back.
Absolutely right. That was the conundrum I had.
Yeah.
Well, life always, teaches you things and pushes you in the right direction. And so about that time when I was having these thoughts inside my head, my mother-in-law, of all people, hired a moving company right here in Birmingham. And it was a complete train wreck. Whatever could go wrong did go wrong, and broken items, damaged walls. They showed up late. They were unprofessional. And, of course, the main thing that happened that she'll always remember is the bill was a lot more than what she thought it was going to be. It was about 400% more than what the original estimate was. 400%. It was crazy.
That sounds common. I've even heard stories of moving companies like holding people's stuff hostage, essentially, because they've jacked the price up from what they quoted them. And they're like, you can either pay us what we're now telling you that you owe us, or we're just going to keep all your stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. There's a lot of just unprofessionalism in the industry, but there's also a lot of fraud in this industry as well. So we'll get to that in a minute, how we change that. But as that experience was happening with her, she kind of pulled me in, just to get some help, like emotional support, whatever.
Yeah.
And so she said, I got an idea. She's like, I'll write a nasty review online. And I said, well, maybe you should probably do that, but what else can we do? And so when she told me all the things that went wrong for her, I literally went to Yelp and I picked out 3 cities. I picked Seattle, Omaha, and Miami. I felt like that was the best way to sort of survey the country. And I went straight to the negative reviews, and it was crazy. Like everything that happened to her was happening in Seattle, Omaha, and Miami.
Same company, or just
different companies,
the moving industry in general?
Moving industry in general. And so I said, there it is. Here's a huge opportunity, because obviously there's demand for these services.
Yeah.
There's a lot of moving companies out there. And so lots of demand, whole lot of problems. To me, that sounds like opportunity. And so I said, Eureka, that's what I should do. Sell 2 maids, focus on this moving company, get back to my startup roots, feel fulfilled and energized again when I finish my day's work, and then go take over the world again, like we did at 2 maids. And so that's the original sort of birth of the idea of Pink Zebra Moving. I didn't know one thing about the industry. I had never been on a truck, obviously. I'd never driven a truck, for that matter. I'd never, I've moved couches for myself, as a young adult, especially, but certainly never worked for a moving company. So all of that part was very foreign to me, but I knew from the consumer perspective, there was a whole lot of stuff wrong. And so to me, that felt like the way to attack it, because most moving companies, what I've learned since I've entered the industry, most moving companies are run and owned by ex-movers, people that were a 25-year-old mover turned 35-year-old business owner, and that's the world they know. And so they start a business. That same thing applies to pretty much all of the home services trade. People get really focused on the trade and think they can be a great business owner, and that's not always the case.
I'm sure it was similar in the cleaning industry, right? A lot of the local competition for your franchisees were probably people that had been cleaning houses for someone else, got fed up working for someone else, said, I can do this better. But and so that industry experience is always important, but it's not the whole recipe for building a successful business, right? Like you need the business acumen and the ability to build the right type of team. There's so much that goes into it. So just to kind of recap kind of the timeline. So we're recording this in August of 2023. So when did you sell 2 maids, and when did Pink Zebra Moving launch?
Yeah, we're coming up on the 2-year anniversary, which is hard to believe.
Wow, it is hard to believe it's been that long.
So in September of 21, I sold 2 maids and a mop to a great group, Home Franchise Concepts. They've went on to build an even stronger brand. I'm super proud to see that growth. But it was time for me, and so I went from this literal ivory tower, overlooking the city with this stupid like treadmill inside of the office, to like owning a moving business in Birmingham with 5 employees that didn't know any of that backstory, and looked at me a whole lot different than, in a different way at least, than everyone else had looked at me for the last forever. So it was definitely a life change and a culture shock, to be honest. But it also, again, it made me sort of get back to my roots, and I started having fun again. We were losing money early on, but I was having fun doing it. Everything was brand new. I think that brand newness actually helped me, because I didn't have all of these past experiences to kind of ruin my vision for what a solution could be to a certain issue or problem.
Totally see that. You didn't have some of the preconceived notions of, oh, this is how it's done in this industry, and you don't do it this way because no one else does it this way. You kind of come in with a blank slate and get to really think outside of the box a little bit. That's cool for sure. I wanted to, before you keep going, I wanted to just say something. I was reading an article the other day, and I'll probably get the numbers wrong, but it was something like, at any given time, there's anywhere between 3,800 and 4,000 franchise brands in the US, and out of those, like only 16% or something ever get to the point where they have more than 100 locations. So just wanted to give you a huge shout out for what you did with Two Maids and a Mop, because that is no small feat to build a franchise to the size that Two Maids was, get it to the point where someone's interested in acquiring it. And you referenced home franchise concepts. They've got a stellar reputation in the franchising industry, some other very prominent brands that people would likely recognize. So for a group like that, to see enough value in what you built to actually buy it from you, it's a amazing accomplishment. So just wanted to kind of spotlight that for the folks listening.
Man, I appreciate that. I tell you, there were days that I thought we wouldn't get out of the fire, because I didn't know anything about franchising before we franchised the brand. I had built Two Maids into sort of a corporate network. We had 12 corporate stores, and then we started franchising. And so everything was brand new. The 13th location was our first franchise. It was in Tampa, Florida. There are amazing people that own that one, mainly because they put up with a ton of really bad support from us early on.
They were your guinea pigs.
Oh yeah. Like we said, here's how you do it. And I go do it. We didn't know you were supposed to actually, literally like hold their hands in some cases.
Right. Yeah.
Be there alongside them and, do more than just give them a playbook. And so thankfully they were awesome business owners. And so they built a really strong business. But yeah, the early version of my franchise model was nowhere close to what it was by the time home franchise concepts kind of came in. We had to learn tools to use, technology. We had to hire the right kind of people. We had to hire folks that could do more than just get a business open. We had to hire people that could be business, could be a business support, like a business coach.
Yeah.
For high performing stores. How you support a $1 million franchisee is not how you support the startup franchisee. And
totally.
So all of those life experiences we had to learn on the job. Sometimes we made mistakes and it cost us time and money. But at the end, I was really proud of what we had built. That's one of the great things about Pink Zebra Moving. We don't have to go through all those growing pains. We've already done it, so we know the type of personalities that are needed to hire for the best kind of talent to support franchisees. We already know the vendors to work with. In fact, most of the vendors we work with now are legacy vendors that we work with back at Two Maids. So these are the same people and even the same rates. That's the best part from the folks that we worked with for 20 years back at Two Maids again. So
yeah, there's no question in my mind. There's so many advantages that the early adopters and the Pink Zebra franchisees are gonna have because of all of your experience now. And I have this conversation with people that I consult with all the time, when we're identifying different franchise opportunities that could make sense for them. A lot of times there's what I refer to as emerging brands that check a lot of, if not all of the boxes that someone's kind of looking for in a business. And at first glance, an emerging concept usually appears more risky than something that's, more established with a longer track record. And, so I always tell people, like, one of the things to really look at with any emerging franchise concept is who's the leadership, who's behind the brand, and what is their experience. Because if you have someone like a Ron Holt at the helm, who's already done this, now he's just shifting his focus to another industry where, he's seen white space to come in and make it better. That's totally, totally different than, the guy that's owned his own moving company for 10 years and now he wants to franchise it and he's going to learn franchising as he goes. That can still work, but in my eyes, that's far riskier than the experienced franchisor launching a new brand.
Yeah, I get calls, emails literally once a week, sometimes more than once a week, from folks who want to franchise their business because, I've done it before and I'm doing it again. So they're like, hey, I'd like to do this. 99% of the time, that particular owner of that business is very important to the success of that business, which is fine. That's how small businesses work usually. But what you learn very quickly in franchising, for instance, moving, we're in two different industries right now. We're in the local moving industry, which everyone agrees with that one, but we're also in the franchising industry, which is a training and support industry. And that is two different things, and so we have to know everything about both of those worlds. And so most people who build a franchise brand sort of take the training and support for granted, because they're like, well, of course, I know my business. I can teach you how to do it. Well, is it documented? Do you have efficiencies that extend beyond your local community, beyond you? What happens when you grow large and you can't, the biggest business is bigger than you, the owner? How are you going to split yourself in half? And so those people get real caught up in the legalities, like how do you publish an FDD? I mean, anyone can do that. The hard part is training people, supporting people, bringing in the right franchisees. A lot of people will just say, hey, let's go fast, and if it's the wrong group of early franchisees, it can kill the rest of the business forever.
Yeah, I would venture to say that's why so many brands never get beyond a certain point. I'm sure it's a combination of all of these things, but bringing in the wrong people, and it's tempting when you're a brand new franchisor, like those franchise fees are going to help, right? And just getting some people into the system and active is all going to help. But if you rush it and you let franchisees in that are probably not going to be the best fit, you could be done before you even really get started, right? Because for a number of reasons. But so there's no doubt in my mind that all of your experience from Two Maids is going to benefit Pink Zebra Moving and all the franchisees in a ton of ways. I want to make sure you have a chance to talk a little bit more about the actual business model that you guys are running at Pink Zebra and how it's different from the vast majority of other moving companies out there. You've already shared a little bit with us about some of the flaws in the industry and some of the common frustrations from a consumer standpoint. So if you're listening to this podcast, then there's a good chance that you're looking to create more freedom in your own life. There's also a good chance that you realize that owning your own business can be a great way to take more control of your livelihood and create more of that freedom that we're all looking for. Also, if you've been listening to the show for a while, you realize that I specialize in franchise ownership. In addition to owning franchise businesses myself, I have a franchise consulting firm, Path to Freedom, where I help people navigate what is typically an overwhelming process of understanding franchising, identifying specific franchise companies that could be a fit, and then conducting the due diligence in a thorough and efficient manner with those franchise brands. My whole purpose here is to leverage my experience working for franchisors, owning franchises myself, and how we've been able to use that to create more freedom in our lives and help you determine if that could be a path that makes sense for you as well. So if any of this sounds interesting, if you've considered business ownership in the past, whether you've explored franchising specifically or not, I'd love to connect with you. I'd love to learn more about you and what it is that you're working towards in your life and determine if I may be in a position to help. A great starting point is the link below in the show notes, which will take you to a short form to fill out, and you'll receive a free copy of an ebook that I've put together, The 7 Steps to Freedom Through Franchise Ownership. That'll also get us connected, and I'd love to set up an introductory call where I can explain a little bit more about the process that I use to help people determine if franchise ownership could be a great way to start charting their own path to freedom. So click the link below in the show notes, receive the ebook, and let's get connected. I'd love to hear from you. Walk us through like what your vision is and how you guys are doing it differently and kind of revolutionizing the moving industry.
Sure. So this is the fun part.
Yeah.
So we did a bunch of things early on to make sure we separated ourselves from the industry. One, we own the color pink. When you think moving, you probably think testosterone and strong guys, right?
Yeah.
In fact, there's a lot of folks named muscle movers or whatever,
Punks.
steroids only movers or whatever. And so, so we went with pink because pink's kind of cool for guys nowadays, I guess, but it typically is the opposite of what you think when you think testosterone. And so we went that direction, number one, because we wanted, again, to separate ourselves. Second thing we did was we made a zany looking truck because I wanted it to really speak to who we are as a brand. Third thing, if you can imagine, by the way, it's pink and white zebra stripes, top to bottom. And the third thing is I made a bold slogan, a bold saying that I thought that we would have to own forever. So our tagline here, one we live by, is we make moving fun. So we own that trademark. We make moving fun. And so we wanted to actually bring that emotion, the emotion of fun, happiness, into the moving experience. Because I felt like you're in a home for 6, 7, 8 hours in most cases to help someone move in and out of a home, right?
Yeah.
And so that's 6, 7, 8 hours with strangers inside this home that you live in. Yet in most cases, there's very little interaction. There's no communication. It's just strangers 8 hours later, just like it was when they first started.
Yeah.
So you're measured on manual labor. The physical work is how you're measured, since there's no other engagement. And so I wanted to use that 6, 7, 8 hours for like theater, like actually put on a show. And so we broke our moving experience into 3 easy parts: before, during, and after. Very simple terms. But before the move, we were going to do a whole bunch of stuff to really communicate and engage with our customers, to let them know what they were in store for, like what the experience was supposed to be like. Simple things like, hey, we're going to be here at this time, which should be very simple for every business. But in the moving industry, probably for all home service businesses, that simple direction is not always conveyed, and so we do the practical things to say, hey, we're going to show up and be uniformed and trained and whatever. But we also do crazy stuff. We have a mascot. His name is Zeke. Of course, he's a pink zebra. He's talking to our customers as much as he can possibly talk to them before the move begins, to let them know what to expect. And people get pretty excited, about what to expect.
I'm thinking of my kids right now. If a pink zebra rolled up in the front yard, it'd be the coolest thing they've seen all year, probably.
What we've learned is either they love them, or they love Zeke, or they're scared to death of Zeke.
Yeah. One of mine would probably be freaked out. The other 2 would be all about it.
Probably our trademark, the thing that we're known for the most, is kind of a simple thing as well. But no other movie companies are doing it, even though they know we're doing it now. The night before a move, we feed our customers for free. Simple thing, just a meal, and this is not a gift card. It's food being delivered to your home, whatever you want that to be. And it's just part of what we do. It's part of the show that we put on when we're providing the service to our customers. And so that one simple act usually generates crazy emotions. We've had people cry, like literal cry. When
it's a game changer. When I first heard that, I was like, that is so genius, because I mean, it's such a stressful time, and so like the last thing you're thinking about the night before you're moving is like, what are we going to do for dinner? So to have that, is it unexpected? Do they know?
It's becoming more and more expected.
I'm sure words kind of spread that, like,
right.
Yeah.
We even every now and then, all of our local offices make we call it the free dinner call around noon. And so every now and then a customer will call and say, hey, are y'all feeding us tonight?
Yeah. What's on the menu for tonight? Yeah. When I guess, maybe you've got to check on dietary restrictions and stuff like that. You got to kind of
we usually lead them down a road. We don't just say pick a restaurant. We have 3 options they can select from, and that are different. Usually some American fare, and some there's a little bit more higher end. You'd be surprised. Some people just pick burgers. That's all I want.
You give me a burger when I've got a lot going on and I don't have time. I'm a happy camper. But this is such a good example, though, of like, because I'm sure there's some people listening, like, big deal. You give them dinner, like they're paying you all this money to move all their stuff. Like you give them free dinner. So what? That's such a good example of like the little touches and really understanding, who your customer is, what some of their pain points are, and just, showing them right out of the gate that, we're different from most other companies. Like we actually care, and we're gonna go above and beyond to make this as positive of an experience for you as we can. It's a little thing, but it's impactful, and people talk about it too, right? Which is why the word is spreading, and people already seem to know that there's a dinner component to this.
So ultimately what we're trying to do, like again, our tagline is we make moving fun. We think we're actually, we call ourselves the world's first happy moving company. Like all of that's really cool and fun, and we get excited about it. But what we're really trying to do is build a relationship with our customers. Most moving companies, again, most consumer service companies don't actually have a relationship with their customers. The work they do is part of a transaction. And so again, like a burger, you go buy a burger for lunch today, that's fine. It's a burger, like if there was nothing special, then there's nothing special. You may go back and buy the burger again later. But this is a $1,000+ ticket. And you don't want that you don't want to be a faceless transaction there. And so when we're performing these services for our customers, the opportunity for mistakes are extremely high, like almost inevitable, in fact. And so when you allow the customer to define their expectations and make that transaction an actual transactional relationship, then they're going to say, okay, I'm defining success based on what I feel. So it better be perfect. They better show up on time. They better work hard all the time. I hope they're like having heart attacks. They're so tired, like if none of that happens, then I'm coming after them. So that's because these are strangers doing work for you in exchange for money. If you hired, let's say, instead of hiring strangers, you hired your 3 nephews to come do the work. And so nephews show up, you're going to give them a little bit a longer rope, right?
Yeah, you can give them some grace if something gets broken, or they nick a doorway with the couch. Like, a little more grace, a little more slack.
Right.
That makes sense.
That's what we try to do. So again, between the food, the crazy stuff that we do during the move, all the communication that we provide, some of the fun videos that we share with our customers, all of that's fun, but really all of it's really meant for one thing. It's to build a relationship with our customers so that they value us, so that they understand that who they're hiring is more than just guys that are strong, so it's fun doing some of the things we do, but it really what the biggest reward is when it's all said and done, when the whole experience is received by a customer, and let's say we get a positive review. Most of the time it has nothing to do with physical labor. They never say, well, sometimes people say this, but most of the time people don't say, Wes and Ron were awesome. They worked hard all day. They kicked tail. They never took a break. Like they just worked. That's why I loved them. Usually they'll say, guys, you should hire them. They showed up on time. They did push-ups to start the show. They fed me the night before. They left behind a unique gift for me. They never say the word move in some of these positive reviews.
Yeah, they're referencing the experience, not the actual work that was done. You mentioned the gift. Talk a little bit more about that, because I remember when I first heard you guys were doing that too. It was another one of those like genius moments for me. Like, oh my God, that's brilliant.
I'll bring it home for you. So you're in Wilmington, North Carolina, right? I don't know if everyone knows this, but you're a big LSU fan. So that's kind of different. There's probably not a lot of LSU fans in North Carolina. It's fair to say.
Not a ton. Right. No.
So we're moving you. Like if you're one of our customers, we're going to move you. So we leave behind a surprise box for every single one of our customers. Inside of it's some generic things, candies, chocolates, whatever. Really cool presentation. It looks really good when you open it, in other words. But the home run, what's inside that box, would be a handwritten note from our manager to you, to you and your family even. And then probably, since we know that you're an LSU fan in North Carolina, maybe some type of LSU garb, whether it's a koozie or something that might be fun to share with you. Not that you don't have an LSU koozie. I'm sure you do.
Sure. It's the fact that you knew.
Right.
That somehow or another throughout this process, because it wasn't just a transaction for the company, you figured out that I'm an LSU fan, and so it doesn't, at that point, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be a keychain, it could be a koozie, like it doesn't matter. It's the act and the personalization of it.
Right. And that's what we're trying to do. And we leave that behind every single time, put a big pink bow around it, of course. It's usually discovered after we leave. Sometimes they'll say, "What the heck's that?" But
is the box like branded, or does it just look like another moving box?
Well, it looks like a Pink Zebra moving branded box.
Okay, gotcha.
The ribbon gives it away, and then we put a big stamp on it that says, "Yes, this is a gift for you."
Yeah.
We had a few people not open it, and
I'm sure you just, I will put that in the attic and get to it. Later.
Yeah.
They find it 3 years later. I can see that. It makes all the sense in the world, especially when you bring it all together, because like each one of these things individually, small but impactful, but when you kind of zoom out and look at the entire experience that this is creating for one of your customers, and then you go back to your mother-in-law's experience or some of these other Yelp reviews that you referenced earlier, like the typical experience that someone's going to get with a moving company, it's night and day difference. And that compounds over time. Like you guys are just getting started and you're already developing a strong relation or reputation for yourselves. Over time, that's just going to compound. And
the stories we hear across the network are pretty amazing. We have a board here, storyboard, where all of these positive customer experiences are documented, in some cases illustrated, and we show them, and so we've got so many of just tearjerkers in some cases. Like
I believe it.
We did one thing for a customer in Oklahoma City. We were big football people here, obviously. He was a big Texas fan. And so we discovered that this didn't come from us. This came from the culture they had built inside their Oklahoma City franchise. They went out and hired a Matthew McConaughey impersonator, and they dubbed his voice over a Matthew McConaughey picture, and they left that in the house. And so when you hit the play button, it was Matthew McConaughey saying, "Welcome to the house, go Horns," or whatever you say.
That is
they thought it was the best thing ever. They told
that is
everybody
awesome.
about it.
That's freaking awesome. One, look, here's the other component to this, right? I imagine this already has and will continue to put Pink Zebra Moving in a position where you don't have to compete on price. You don't have to be, the low cost moving option. If someone's really trying to, pay as little as possible for moving, go hire one of the companies that's going to give you a low price and then triple it. When it's time to actually pay, you guys can command a premium because people are willing to pay. Not everyone, but plenty of people are willing to pay for a good experience.
No doubt. I mean, we don't necessarily have traditional recurring revenue inside this industry, but we do. What we provide is so talkable, so shareable, that it usually finds itself throughout a community. And probably more importantly, typically most of our business, not most, but a good portion of our business is sent to us from referral channels, like with real estate agents.
Yeah.
When you make a real estate agent's clients happy, you make the real estate agent happy as well. And so we get more and more work from that as a result. So while we don't have traditional recurring revenue, the real estate agents really are real estate.
Yeah, it's a prime business for referrals, right? Because take a real estate agent. If they recommend a moving company, they're going to be pissed if that moving company does a bad job, because it makes the real estate agent look bad, right? Mm-hmm. But you come and you over deliver, you put on a show, you give them dinner, you leave them a box with a personalized gift. that makes that real estate agent look like a freaking genius, you know?
But so we had another customer that was a huge fan of Reba McEntire. Like we saw it all over their Facebook pages, and we also saw that they couldn't go. They couldn't find a ticket. They really wanted to go, her and her husband. They just couldn't find one, asking if anybody had any tickets.
No
I forgot
way.
which market it was in. So they paid us $12,000, a $12,000 ticket for us to do the move. And so 2 days after the move, the Reba McEntire show was in town. So during that move, we went out and we found two tickets for her and her husband. They were like $150 a piece. You know, we spent $300. We got $12,000 in return. And so we hand delivered that to them at the end of our move and said, "Hope you guys have fun in 2 days." They cry.
I believe it. Yeah,
they cry. You know,
that's incredible.
And so they told everybody about it. It cost us $300. You know, and so that $12,000. What happened afterwards was the cool part. So that was a referral from a real estate agent. And that real estate agent told everybody about the Reba McEntire story. A professional golfer heard the story, or the wife of a PGA player heard the story, shared the story on her Instagram, which had tons of followers, of course.
Sure. Yeah.
And that allowed us to generate even more and more business. And all we were trying to do is make this one customer happy, but it went farther and farther and farther because it was so different. Moving companies don't do things like that.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's so cool. Listen, I know we're kind of up on time. Real quick, kind of speed round here. A couple things I want to make sure you have a chance to speak to. Who do you want as franchisees? What type of franchise owner are you looking for? And kind of share with us, like, where is Pink Zebra at today? Number of franchisees, number of territories, because I want to make sure people know that you guys are really just getting started. There's massive opportunity going forward, because I'm sure this has piqued a lot of people's interest in terms of just the business opportunity itself.
Yeah.
So what does that look like?
Yeah, so we are in 10 locations, predominantly in the Southeast, because we're based in Birmingham, Alabama, and just organically, that's how we've grown. But we're wide open. We're available throughout the country, minus one state. We're not registered in California, but we're able to grow and develop all over the country. Otherwise, those 10 markets are up and going. You're going to get great franchise candidate validations because people are doing really well right now, and people are real happy about the decision they made to invest in this franchise opportunity. Who we're looking for right now, I call these early folks the forefathers of our brand. I've lived that already with Two Maids. I know how important the early franchisees are to the long-term success of the business. Everybody looks up to them. Everybody follows their moves and decisions and actions. And so we're trying to bring in franchisees that I call them more like generals versus soldiers.
Yeah.
We're looking for even more entrepreneurial-minded franchisees right now, people that may even have some good ideas that we can learn from.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of personality we're looking for, someone that wants to be a part of a franchise brand, understands the importance of systems and process, but has a little entrepreneurial itch.
Yeah.
You know, a little cowboy in them even.
Yeah. They don't need the playbook fully baked yet.
Right. Yeah. Now that won't last forever. We can't have 100 cowboys, you know, but the next 5 to 10 transactions that we have, we're hoping that's who we'll do deals with. Now, beyond that, we were looking for more of a traditional franchise owner at that point, but that's the kind of person we're striving for. We're being pretty selective. We got to be in the market. If the market can't generate at least $1 million in revenue, then we don't want to be in it. And so,
yeah, you guys are doing really large territories, like compared to most other home service type franchises. Right?
We are, and again, that's a little bit of a learning lesson from back in my old days. I just feel like we need more land for more opportunity. We also need less franchisees to support. What I don't want, I'll tell you a great example. At Two Maids, we were in Houston, Texas. You probably know Harris County is the largest county in the country. Yeah. We had 7 different franchisees in that one county.
Wow.
And so when you have that, if all 7 people are just kick and tail and doing everything perfectly, that's fine.
Yeah.
But when you're that closely connected to another franchisee, if one of those neighboring franchisees is not performing at a high level, it really
Drags
pulls down
everybody
everybody,
down.
you know?
Yeah.
And so we prefer just a smaller franchise network as a result of that. And we also think it gives our franchisees better opportunity to grow.
Sure. Build a big business instead of a lot of franchisees with smaller or medium-sized businesses. So,
Right.
awesome stuff, man. Congratulations again on everything you've built up to this point. And I can't wait to see Pink Zebra continue to grow and turn into another national brand.
Yeah, man. Well, Wes, thanks for having me on here. If anybody wants to visit our website, it's easy to find us, Pink Zebra Moving franchise.com. So
awesome.
check
We'll
us
put it in the
out.
show notes. I'll put Ron's original. I think you were like literally maybe the third person I had on my podcast. Maybe you were in the top 3 for sure, or first 3.
Yeah.
So that takes it way back, but we'll put that episode in the show notes if people want to check it out as well. But Ron, thanks for everything you're doing, man. Really appreciate it. And thanks for dropping in here on the Path to Freedom podcast.
Yeah, man. Glad to be here. It was awesome.